Hey, it's Expertly Unusual, filming from a rare high angle in case I look disoriented and confused the entire time. So, last year I watched about 90 movies, I logged them all on Letterboxd, it's kinda my whole thing. I talk about it constantly, which you guys would know if I uploaded more often. A lot of great movies, some of which are now in my all-time favorites. Dead Poet Society, Eternal Sunshine, Truman Show, Mad Max Fury Road, Hot Tub Time Machine. But out of all the movies I saw last year, this one might just be my favorite. You know, I really love bad movies. Sometimes they're even more fun to watch than a good movie. This one has picked up so much traction in the last few years. It really makes me question the whole so bad it's good genre. Because, like, this movie is so bad that it's actually a masterpiece, and I would rather watch it than some movies I consider to be really genuinely good. And this movie is called The VelociPastor. So, it's been 2 years since I did my last B-movie video with 3 giant men, and there's one thing missing from that, so... There we go, we got it up. I would use this in more videos, but it's the process of getting it up because I don't have any stands or supports for them. Oh yeah, I guess it's still green. There we go. So what we're talking about, right, yes, this is a movie called The VelociPastor. It is about an ordained pastor who turns into a dinosaur to fight ninjas. And it's absolutely incredible. Written, directed, and produced by one guy, which either means you're in for the best or worst time of your life. This comes to us from filmmaker Brendan Steer. To provide some backstory on this, back in 2011, Steer created a class project parody trailer called The VelociPastor, which was literally based off of autocorrect. Featuring a different cast and with a much lower budget, it performed alright when it was posted to YouTube, but Steer felt very strongly attached to this concept. He would continue doing short film content on YouTube. His 2013 directorial debut Animosity did not perform highly, so years later he went back to make VelociPastor into a full film after wanting to do this for quite some time. Now, movies that set out to be like so bad they're good B movies have come along before. You know, usually they just end up being so bad they're bad. What makes VelociPastor stand out? Why did so many people message me when I was like initially discussing making this video, talking about how they love it so much? What is it about this movie that made me need to put up a green screen and do up the effects? I don't know how much I'm gonna do the effects in this one, to be honest. But you know what, let's just do the same thing and describe the plot and then, you know, throw some trivia in the middle. This film is rated X by an all-Christian jury. Who or where this jury is remains unknown. I've personally checked the all-time best review site, Common Sense Media, and I didn't find any results for their take on VelociPastor. The fact they didn't even consider having it on their website must mean it was too obscene for even them. I didn't know if the film was meant to look like this or if I was just streaming it on a low quality site, but it turns out they shot the film on 16mm film and then cooked it in an oven to give it an aged look, which is certainly a risk to throw your entire film in the oven, but you know what? It worked out, so... We meet our titular VelociPastor back when he was just a regular pastor, giving a sermon to what is clearly an empty church. His name is Doug Jones, which is clearly inspired by monster movie makeup actor Doug Jones. Probably not, though. They maybe just accidentally gave their main character the most generic name of all time. His life is just so great as he goes out to greet his parents in a totally normal human fashion.
Mom and Dad!
Little does he know the funniest scene in all of cinema history is about to happen.
No.
I watched several interviews with Brendan Steer and he talked about how he wanted the first 10 minutes of the movie to like help people determine if they wanted to stick through it. And this scene did it for me. Like, first 2 minutes actually made me want to stick through the entire movie because that was so amazing. There was actually originally supposed to be an explosion there, but they decided when showing the test footage to people, it was just the funniest thing they could do was just to have that there. So anyways, the cameraman gets a little bit lost while panning up. We're introduced to best character Father Stewart, who gives a really bad motivational speech. Let's just get this out the way.
Your parents died, Doug. It's what parents do. They die on you.
But you know, at least Doug has some pretty good cry acting. They have a very, very interestingly framed conversation, I would say. The conversation itself is pretty standard given the rest of the movie, but I really wanted to focus in on this editing choice. But you know what? Doug's decided he needs to get away from God for a while, so he goes to the one place God would never go to. So, he drives in his car to the opening credits, and we see the VelociPastor, or I guess at this point just the Doug Pastor, framed as kind of a badass, you know. He's driving his car, he's all cool and stuff, he's got this rock song playing, which seems to be very, very specific. And here's a little fact for you guys. This song was written and performed by the director's band, a man of many talents. You know what I'm trying to figure out, though, is why is the inside of his car so damn dark when it's clearly the middle of the day? Did someone add the wrong background to his car? Did somebody do that? Like, who could be so stupid as to add the wrong background to their professional, yeah. He goes to China, probably not filmed on location, though we don't know, actually. Okay, well, you know what, it's definitely not filmed on location because they just stay in the woods the whole time. If it was filmed on location, it would be a really, really interesting way to spend their budget, you know? He arrives and he says,
China.
Like he just crossed the border and just arrived in China. He clearly took a plane, right? Like, he did not hike his way into China through any bordering nations. Like, he didn't take a flight to Mongolia and then hike into China. Like, that just didn't happen. Or if it did, why? So this girl gets sniped by an arrow, and Doug says the obvious.
Are you hurt?
She's clearly hurt, you know. There's an arrow sticking out of her chest, you know. It's kind of a very obvious injury, but you know, he's not the VelociDoctor or even the Veloci anything right now, so we couldn't expect him to know. Though it would be really cool to have a VelociDoctor, you know. She gives him some kind of artifact and then mumbles this.
Dragon warrior.
The dragon warrior is among us.
Somehow he cuts himself on it. I don't know how exactly. Maybe he had very weak skin, you know? There's no time to focus on that though, because a ninja is coming after him. You know, what is a ninja doing in China anyways? Well, he wakes up back in the church, meaning that he already came back. What exactly happened when the ninja caught up with him and was very clearly going to shoot him? Maybe the ninja recognized actor Greg Cohen for all the times he played cops and guards in random popular TV shows, or for voicing extras in Red Dead 2. Do you think this guy just like works on other sets and everyone recognizes him as the VelociPastor? Father Stewart is very casual about the fantasy adventures that Doug has just gone on, just saying,
How Eastern.
maybe he's just unfamiliar with Eastern cultures and assumes this is the regular type of stuff that happens. Well, we do find out later that he served in Vietnam, and considering the things that went on there, maybe this is just what happens every day in this world's version of Asian cultures. We have an awkward goodbye, and then he just kind of like stumbles around for a bit, causing chaos. He almost even crashes into this lollipop lady who gives money to a homeless man who will not stop following her. Like, say thank you and move on, dude. You're doing a bit too much there. However, we learn that Carol, the kindly lollipop lady, is actually a prostitute working for this cartoon pimp named Frankie Mermaid, the most ridiculous man alive. And this is one of my favorite characters in the entire film, because of the lore behind him. Yeah, guys, get ready for the Frankie Mermaid lore. Fernando Panchero was a crew member who Steer had previously worked with. He only had one acting credit for this movie as a featured extra. When he was offered the role, he created the character's name, job, personality, appearance, all of that, you know. It was his idea to shave his head into this look for the role, All the clothes the character wears are his own, and he came up with the name Frankie Mermaid because, in his own words,
"'Cause you're swimming in bitches."
You goddamn right!
Also, this scene where he swears at passerbys. So it was improvised. He didn't realize he was yelling this at kids who were just walking out of school. By the way, this church is in a terrible neighborhood. It's no wonder that nobody goes here. They got crazy mermaid pimps. They got cars getting blown up and forgetting to apply their special effects. It's almost like they'll need some kind of protector. Some kind of VelociPastor.
What, we some kind of...
The VelociPastor.
Anyways, the next scene, Doug goes out into the woods and starts having his first transformation into the VelociPastor. Unfortunately, Carol is in a neighboring park that night doing her runs, just at the same time as Doug's transformation. And to make things worse, she's getting mugged now. But she finds herself saved by the VelociPastor in his first on-screen appearance, and he looks pretty good, but we don't see his full costume yet. Somehow, the muggers survive that encounter, and then he shoots off some blanks. I mean, I think we're meant to believe he's firing bullets, but I like to believe in the story he is shooting blanks at the dinosaur in hopes to scare him off. We then see what the VelociPastor really looks like. There's no time to focus on that though, guys. We gotta like really, the mugger got decapitated. It was a whole thing, you know. And now we're on to the next scene. Pastor Doug wakes up the next morning in Carol's house and greets her in an interesting way.
Hello, my child.
Shit, dude, they should have called this guy the VelociRizzler.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
There's a bit about their initial miscommunication. He thinks she's talking about sex, but she's talking about VelociPastoring. However, my initial idea when I watched this scene is that she had sex with him, but like while he was still in dinosaur form, which made this scene incredibly confusing for me because I didn't know which one we were meant to be believing. So Doug gets up and tries to flee. We almost see his VelociPenis. You know how it is. Everyone's had a morning like this. The cameraman seems to really enjoy his job. So anyways, Carol reveals to him that he turned into a dinosaur last night and ate a guy or decapitated him. He might have done both, you know, played with his food a little bit. But his biggest concern is not that. His biggest concern is that dinosaurs aren't real, as he is a creationist. I personally believed at this point that his character arc would be him learning all about dinosaurs and like all the different periods they existed in. And then like at the end someone will be like, ugh, you Jurassic pastor, and then he'd be all like, actually, velociraptors are from the Cretaceous period. And then like 12 explosions happen, or like we just we see like labels for the 12 explosions that happen. So he dresses like Velma and they go out into the woods to find the guy he decapitated, because you know, he didn't have any clothes, she didn't have any non-hooker clothes, even though we find out that she is a pre-med student who is funding her way there through prostitution. Oh yeah, speaking of which, he is more concerned that she is a hooker rather than him turning into a dinosaur and cutting a guy's head off and also eating him. Honestly, I think he should be more forgiving because like how else are you supposed to fund your education these days? Anyways, Doug doesn't know how to walk correctly. She suggests he kind of be like Daredevil, you know, in the sense that he eats the people who he couldn't redeem through the power of Christ. So he uses the power of dinosaurs. You know, Doug already kind of runs like a dinosaur. Even when he's a person, you know, he kind of looks a little bit like a lizard man, low-key. Do you think he was cast specifically because he kind of like has reptile features to him? Anyways, later at work, Frankie Mermaid goes to confession for some reason, and he starts lighting up what is most likely a joint in the confessional booth. Also, he gives his name away. Like, that's the first rule of confession, is you're anonymous, I think. I've never done it before, to be honest. I mean, I assume it's like birthday rule wishes, right? Like, you can't, like, give it away if you want it to come true. If you, like, say who you are, what you're confessing to, then the confessional doesn't count, right? And then you have to go out and then, like, use your checkpoint and then go back and do the confession again. This is correct, right? Doug focuses on the wrong parts of the confession, as per usual. He's a bit of a morally flawed character, and I think that's really interesting about him. We do end up finding out a major plot detail, which is that Frankie Mermaid had his parents killed. We even have this confirmed with a flashback of Frankie Mermaid tweaking out at the parents' death. It turns out, rather than werewolf rules, the VelociPastor functions under kind of Hulk rules, and he attacks and kills Frankie Mermaid, who does some pretty good death acting. In an interview, Steers said that he cast friends and family in a lot of roles to intentionally get bad acting out of them to make the movie funny, but everyone kept doing too good of a job, which I think makes the movie a lot more endearing. So Carol reads a book in the blanket they give to like people who've been through intense trauma, but I guess she did have sex with a dinosaur. And it's not confirmed, it's just what I think, you know. But now Doug is ready to be the VelociPastor for good, going to Carol to make a plan. Fortunately, his parents never taught him much about dinosaurs, you know. He never saw Jurassic Park or Dinosaur Train. Do you guys remember Dinosaur Train? Dinosaur Train taught me what adoption was, and I think they're really interesting. It's like the pterodactyl was, no, there's a family of pterodactyls, and like there was a Tyrannosaurus or another dinosaur who was adopted by them. And that's what taught me that adoption was a thing, because it was like, you know, why am I talking about this? They high five and cut to a montage where they hunt down criminals with a lot of Jesus imagery. Also, this includes a workout montage for some reason. Why did he need to work out if he's killing people as a dinosaur who's already got like the physical, like, you know, capabilities to take on people? I mean, he was already in surprisingly good shape for a pastor to begin with. I feel like the actor was just already in really good shape, and they needed a canonical reason why he would be so jacked, given his profession not really being known for having, you know, people in like who look like this. So anyways, they're being way too horny in a church as they blossom into a relationship. You know, you gotta be careful there, alright? If you leave the church, you can't be the VelociPastor anymore. You're just gonna have to be a regular guy who turns into a dinosaur to fight crime. Next scene, we are introduced to our main villains, this ninja clan. Maybe they're related to the guys from the beginning. I feel like I might have missed a plot point there or two. So the ninja leader speaks Chinese, and the white guy, fittingly named the White Ninja, speaks English in response. The laughing is not matched up accordingly. Then it's a little bit too matched up. And then it stops. Continue listening to their conversation. You can see the boom mic in this scene as they keep laughing. We got a stereotypical gong noise in there, just for good measure, you know. So, Father Stewart sees Doug talking to Carol, committing velocicin. You know, he's probably more concerned over his growing collection of dinosaur scripture, however. Luckily, he hasn't broken his celibacy yet, as he is still a velocivirgin, but he does decide in this moment to confess to his dinosaur transformations. Father Stewart is reasonably concerned, so they start drinking, and he makes some rather conflicting statements about the Bible.
God does not want people dead.
I'm not really well versed, but I feel like in all religious texts, like I think a lot of people die. You know, I don't feel like this isn't really like a targeted thing. I just feel like, you know, this is his job. I feel like it's a bit of so. Anyways, they decide he's gonna get a Veloci exorcism, and Father Stewart was in the other room for this one-line delivery for some reason.
The job of the sinner is...
It's obvious this isn't about her anyway.
Doug says, "God damn it," which I'm pretty sure, like, gets you sent to jail if you're a pastor, like in pastor jail, you know? He has a parent flashback, which, you know, before his parents blew up. It's really because he's wondering what his parents would say to him in this situation. But, you know, they just laugh and they say, like, you know, generally approving comments and voiceover. Honestly, I think if his parents were here in the situation, they would have said, like... Him and his dad have a conversation in that one car sequence from Spider-Man 2.
The VelociPastor.
No more.
He gets out of the car and enters a white void on his way to priest college. But at least we know that Doug is his father's favorite and only son.
I'm so proud of you, Doug. You're my only son.
The church has a demonic worship room or something for some reason, and then Chris Angel or George Michael or whoever this guy is shows up. Actually, he's called Altair. He has pointy ears and, you know, nail polish like every exorcist does. Played by Aurelio Voltaire, a performer known for playing vampire-type characters. It makes me wonder if this was the idea for the character, or maybe they just showed up in their regular attire and decided to go with the, yeah, sure, why not? Pointy ears, exorcist, you know? Father Stewart claims he hasn't had to call upon this guy since the war. The war.
The war.
We get to hear about all their friends who've died, like Johnny Bones.
Johnny Bones?
This dumbass who sat on his own grenade.
Andrew Martin sat on his own fucking grenade.
Ricky and Vin.
Ricky and Vincent.
Put Father Stewart in like a wig, and Altair is the same age, but he's not like a demon or an elf or whatever yet. I've been confirmed that these two are different people with similar names. This is War Buddy Ali. Because I was very confused over the missing lore behind this character, but no, they're actually two entirely different people, and Father Stewart's backstory is completely irrelevant from the exorcism.
Name's Adeline. When we get out of this war, I'm thinking I'll settle down and finally start that family.
You could have 5 kids.
11 kids. And I want you to spend 15 minutes a day with each of them.
11 kids, 15 minutes a day with each of them. Imagining he has them on their own schedule. Sorry, no more dad time for you. Your 15 minutes is up. Time for the next kid. Come out of the waiting room, kids. Let's do this. He has a whole monologue which ensures he's gonna die and be brought back to life as a half demon or an elf or something. I wrote this in my original notes before I knew they were 2 different characters, but I'm gonna keep it in here. He's immediately shot because he pushed his luck, you know, he just wouldn't stop talking. So a fly lands on the page, the white ninja's in the background of this scene, I think. Suddenly, his wife Adeline has made it to Vietnam somehow, out of the power of love, I assume. And she's clearly in her 50s, but let's not worry about it. I'll explain why in a second later. But their reunion is cut short because this happens. Father Stewart has just had the worst life ever, you know? His buddy Ali died. He never had those 11 kids, which he could only spend 15 minutes a day with each of them. You know, his wife got blown up. Anyways, we're still getting Father Stewart's backstory somehow as the 60-year-old man walks around in a blonde wig through the streets of Chicago. But honestly, Father Stewart is such a funny character. Like, every line delivery from him is gold. So I can't really complain about his extended backstory. By the way, Father Stewart is played by Daniel Steer, father of director Brendan Steer. And the wife Adeline is played by the director's mother, Kathleen Steer. Cuts back and forth between the exorcism, which seems to be more of summoning a demon, probably because there is no demon, it's a dinosaur. And I feel like, you know, if you try to do an exorcism and a demon's not actually there, then one has to show up for you to finish the exorcism. It's just how it works. I know this stuff, guys, you know. But anyways, this all is very upsetting to Doug and turns him into the VelociPastor. Father Stewart can't believe his eyes, and then his eyes get torn out. Well, one of them gets torn out, at least. Altair, who is maybe actually a vampire, I think, clearly doesn't know how to do their job correctly. Doug goes out and does some more VelociPastoring and then goes to Carol's place. He's covered in newspapers for some reason. Like, he has clothes on. You think he'd be naked from the transformation and needed to cover himself, but I guess he just really wanted to cosplay as a homeless napper. We get a... I don't even know how to describe the passionate love scene that takes place between Doug and Carol right here. It's so interesting, you know. I feel like just watch it because my description can't do it justice. Also, music that I don't think I can play. But what I did like learning is that Brendan Steer was visiting his partner who was living in Latvia at the time, and he was so depressed from, like, you know, the weather and like the lack of sun in Latvia that he decided to edit this scene as absurdly and ridiculous as possible just to get him out of that slump. And it really shows, you know. I think I would... maybe I need to try editing stuff like this next time I get sad, you know? Not in this video, though. This is already going to be a long video. The next morning, the cameraman takes a really long time to pan up. Really like their job, you know? But I guess it was just like building up the ninjas breaking into their apartment. And I guess... we might have missed this in between, like, you know, the last, like, workout scene and the last, like, love montage and all that. So that they both learned martial arts and became really good at it and able to defeat these ninjas on their own. They have this fight scene in their underwear and all that, you know. I'm still trying to recover from that last scene, which I think I'm just going to leave you guys in the dark on that one because, you know what, go watch the full movie. Don't just watch this video. I doubt any of you are going to just watch this video unless you've already seen the movie, but you should watch the full movie, you know. We see that Father Stewart was captured by the Ninja Master, who is a priest in his own right. But he's not just any kind of priest, he is a ninja priest who sells drugs. He has an eye patch now, and it's not really explained how the ninjas got to him. I guess his good pal, Altair, just kind of gave him up to the ninjas. Even though they were like lifelong war buddies and all that. Correction, they were not lifelong best friends. I have no idea how these two know each other. This guy's job is to stand here all the time. I just wanted to point that out. So their plan is to get people hooked on cocaine, and then they'll have to turn to the church for rehabilitation, and then they can conquer the world through that. Father Stewart isn't really about that, though, so they just stab him anyways. Rest in peace, man. You were a real one. May you find some food here. They just keep laughing. They're doing all sorts of tomfoolery. The scroll is on fire now. In a voiceover, Doug lets us know that the ninja told him where the hideout was before he died, probably just because they forgot to film that scene. He brings Carol along probably because they're both masters of martial arts, and he probably doesn't even need to turn into a VelociPastor in order to kill the ninjas. I mean, she killed that one ninja by like punching him really hard and then emoting on his ass. Let's forget about all of that because it's time for the biggest plot twist in cinematic history. Turns out the white ninja is actually Doug's brother. This is Sam Jones, the least favorite child. He is the one who hired Frankie Mermaid to kill his parents in that car explosion at the beginning. If you're wondering, like, why we didn't see him in the flashback, we did. He was just off screen.
Bruh.
And he was in the back of the car.
You're my only son.
Bruh.
Turns out he did not like it when his father referred to Doug as his favorite and only child. Failing to acknowledge one of your children's existence might lead them down a villain arc, you know? Way to go, VelociPastor parents. What do you have to say about this? So, Sam hits the laugh emote at the wrong time. Now, Doug must battle his VelociBrother. Sam asks Doug a question I've been wanting to ask him the entire time.
You were always laughing, Doug. What was so funny?
Doug is very easily able to use telekinesis in order to get their ancestral sword to slay his VelociBrother, who has very orange blood. I'm sure all of this will be explained in the sequel. The one remaining ninja summons another ninja who was in the tent the whole time, who seems to strike fear into Carol's heart. Then she just kind of stands there as the dude raises his sword to strike her, and then you'll never guess what happens next. Yeah, he cuts her wide open. It's very shocking. Doug is devastated to have lost his VelociLover. She got cut, like, across the chest, but is bleeding from the mouth, by the way. I'm not sure that's how... I don't think you just start bleeding from the mouth whenever you die. It's like a lot of mouth bleeding. It might actually be like too much mouth bleeding, I feel like. The ninjas cry over Carol's death. Maybe it's because they know they've just awoken the VelociPastor. We get the greatest line delivery in history. I'm just gonna play it. You're and it leads into a transformation into the VelociPastor. The first time we see it in its full, like, gloriousness. So here's a few facts about the VelociPastor suit, because it's just the thing that people remember the most from the movie is the suit, to be honest. In high school, Brendan Steer was in charge of his school's film club, and through a bit of funding, they were able to get this dinosaur costume they were going to use for a project. The school's principal, however, shut it down after finding out how violent it was going to be, and the dinosaur costume sat in Steer's basement for like the next decade until he dug it up in order to use it for this film. In all of the shots, the costume is either being worn by Steer or by his brother because they were the only ones who knew how to operate it. Also, it explains the size of it is because it was designed to be worn by a high schooler. Only someone around the height of like 5'8" could wear the costume. Also, police were called during the shooting of this scene because they shot it in a public park, and it was reported as a bunch of ninjas were fighting some sort of short, fat dinosaur, which is a pretty apt description of the movie. I think that should be its official description, you know? And an interesting choice, Doug is shot in the leg with an arrow, and in a film reel glitch transition turns him back into a human. Somehow, the VelociBrother isn't dead yet, by the way. The ninja priest starts monologuing to nobody in particular because last I checked, Doug can't speak Chinese. I mean, he's not exactly the VelociLinguist. He messes with him for a bit before dropping the name of the movie.
VelociPastor!
But Doug uses his VelociGrippers to grab the ninja priest's real, actual head and tear it clean off his body. And it's his real head, too. And then he even turns it around to show us just how real it is. And then the movie ends amazingly on a freeze frame with the Gandhi quote, And then it starts playing again. Awesome movie. I love this movie. But hey, didn't he have a Veloci lover who died? Oh yeah, Carol, right. She's still here. But you know, she isn't actually dead though. Despite all of the mouth bleeding, he takes her to the hospital, and the doctor, is he gonna fix that? He's gonna fix the thing over his head? Nope, he's gonna leave it there. Really shouldn't have an ashtray in the waiting room of a hospital, by the way. And this doctor shouldn't be smoking while he's still in his scrubs. Also, Doug had to change into an identical outfit because, like, his last set of clothes were covered in blood. He just kind of had the same outfit. And for some reason, they put like this little paper hospital gown wrap thing over a new set of clothes she wasn't wearing in the last scene. I don't think that's how that works. Carol is fine though. She is fine. She is fine, okay? She's fine. Doug now smokes and he wears sunglasses because he's not a pastor anymore and he needs to show us just how cool and edgy he is. Also, what do we call him now that he's no longer a pastor? The VelociDugster, I guess. And then the movie ends. Now, I haven't made a dedicated theory in a while, but I would like to share a theory of mine. Now, Doug has a close allyship and relationship with a prostitute. You know who else did? Jesus. He was betrayed by somebody close to him. You know who else was? Jesus. He fights ninjas. You know who else did? Jesus. So I think the VelociPastor might come across as something that uses the concept of a religious dinosaur as a gimmick, but in reality, it is a religious story that retells the life of Christ in a modern setting with dinosaurs. This would mean that Doug's dead father is God him. Okay, I don't know, okay, man. I just saw, like, the prostitute connection and I ran with it. Anyways, what is it about this movie that makes it stand out so much? It's only been out for about 5 years. There's already a sequel in production. We get movies like this all the time, like cheap B movies, like kinda, you know, ones that recognize the absurd, like, ridiculousness. Like Sharknado has had 5 movies. What makes the VelociPastor stand out so much? I think it is just a movie for everyone. You don't need to be an expert in Jesus or dinosaurs or martial arts or pimpery. You can just watch this movie with your friends and have a good time because that's what it was designed for, you know? I watched this movie with a group of friends and I had a great time. And I think that what really makes this movie special is that it is just a singular vision to make, like, a B movie that knows exactly what it is. It is a pastor who turns into a dinosaur, even though that is not a velociraptor. I just wanted to say that. I forgot to say in the video, that's not a velociraptor, okay? I know my dinosaur stuff. That is not a velociraptor. Fight me on this one. Okay, the entire movie is actually awful because that's not the correct dinosaur. Sue me on this. I think this movie is like a modern version of The Evil Dead. It's cheap, it has the director's friends in it, like, it's indie filmmaking at its finest. It just knows what it wants to be, and it sets out to complete that and does its job perfectly. VelociPastor 2 is currently in production, with Steer returning as writer and the 2 leads returning as well. I think we gotta bring back all the characters who died too. Make Father Stewart a cyborg. Make the White Ninja a reincarnated demon with his own dinosaur powers. I'm getting too excited, okay? I think you only get movies like this a few times in a generation, and I will personally be there day 1 to watch the VelociPastor 2. Anyways, like the video, comment your favorite type of dinosaur and or religious practitioner. Would you want to see them join forces? Follow me on all my social media listed down below. I may or may not post on them, I'm not sure yet really. I will be posting on here more often now that I finished my own film. It is called The Harbingers. You can watch it now. It is amazing. I am incredibly biased though, so form your own opinion. Do all of that. More. Be yourself. Do what makes you happy. Peace out. Green screen off.